personal mantra for me. 2 years from now, this is where we will be. For example, we were thinking about if we go to Shark Tank, this is what we're going to do. And that actually happened. Virtual reality headsets are a completely new format where you actually get into a world. Everything is enveloped around you. In a physical space, you can have like 100,000 people. Like maybe a Wembley Stadium might have that many people. But in a metaverse, you can have millions of people together experiencing something. It's maybe 20% there, but we're talking 5 years from now. Whether virtual or real, your content needs to connect. Any concept like this is in India, it will work. We have seen the same with Kyra. They were very quick to understand the concept, and now they're very comfortable, whether it's AI, whether it's virtual influencers, whatever new technology comes. Indians are the first ones to adopt it. Right now, we are charging similar to what a real influencer with a 500K or 1 million would charge. We are charging a premium because she's currently one of the only virtual influencers in the world.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of FUTR Equentis podcast. Today, we have an extraordinary guest joining us who's making waves both in the tech and the marketing world. Now, not only is he the founder of FUTR Studios and the creator of India's first virtual influencer, but you might also recognize him from Shark Tank India. So please join me in welcoming Himanshu Goel. Himanshu, it's fantastic to have you here. How are you today?
Thank you so much for inviting me. Excited to start this podcast.
Is this like your first podcast, or have you done something like this before?
I've done 5-6 podcasts
Oh,
before.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's start off with a very basic question. See, you've had like quite an interesting journey. So you've studied engineering, then you moved to marketing, then you founded FUTR Studios. So how has that journey been, and what are the hardships that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Right. So after plus two, I selected engineering, like most of us in India do. Either it's medical or engineering. And I actually was very interested. I wanted to know how to code. I spent a lot of time on my PC. I used to game a lot. I still game sometimes.
What do you
And
game?
uh, console games, PC games. So I thought I was interested in coding, but after my first or second year, I realized that coding wasn't for me.
Okay.
So I did my IT engineering from Punjab University,
Okay.
Chandigarh. And once I realized that coding wasn't for me, then I started exploring other options. So right out of my graduate college, I went for MBA. I did my MBA from Maika Ahmedabad, which is a marketing college. And then it was the agency life for 3-4 years. So I was in an influencer marketing agency, and I worked with hundreds of influencers, experienced content. Parallelly, I was also making small bits of content on my page as well. And I really got interested into social media, into content creation. And that's how I got into the marketing world. We worked with a lot of brands, a lot of influencers. And finally, we got this opportunity to do FUTR Studios, to create something of our own. And I just jumped right into it.
So was it like, I mean, because it's so unique, did your parents support it?
So I've been very lucky. My parents have always been supportive of whatever decision I made, whether it's not to take a job right out of college, go do my MBA as a fresher. So they have been supportive in that as well. And similarly, so we had a little bit of market validation before we officially registered our business, our product, which is Kyra, India's first virtual influencer. There was some traction in the market already. So my parents have an idea that this is something that has a potential of being something big. And they have been very supportive. Of course, they follow Kyra as well. They follow FUTR Studios very closely and support us in whatever we do.
That's nice. So before I jump into virtual influencers, I want to talk to you about Metaverse. Now you see big tech CEOs like Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella speaking about Metaverse, but honestly, I think a layman out there wouldn't understand what a metaverse really is.
Right.
Like according to me, I think it's a confluence of both virtual and physical world. But we're already in that world. So is metaverse more immersive, or what is your definition of metaverse?
So we are still in the very early stages of defining what a metaverse could look like.
Okay.
I think we can take reference from the world of fiction. If you look at something like Ready Player One, which is a movie that Spielberg directed. It gives a very good reference point of what a metaverse could be. I think it's a combination of 3 4 technologies that are already present in our world, but not mature enough to reach sort of like a critical stage. One technology is definitely virtual reality.
Okay.
So for the past 15 years, we have been interacting with slabs. Basically, our smartphones and tablets and laptops are just slabs with screens on them. And this is the format that we're used to. Virtual reality headsets are a completely new format where you actually get into a world. Everything is enveloped around you. So that is something I'm very excited about. Once that technology is mature enough, there are enough users in the world. Second is social media. So imagine you're in a different world and all of your friends are around you wherever they may be in the real world. So that is the second aspect. Third is the 5G aspect. So all these technologies are coming together and forming metaverse. Again, we're still in the very early stages, but if you imagine 5 years from now, it is something which is very exciting. It is something which can be also very scary.
Okay.
But
How do you think it would look from 5 years from now?
so I think it's something very much like the fiction movies we have seen, people wearing headsets and connecting. So there are many popular games which sort of have a representation of that world
Like The
already.
Sims.
Like Sims, like Fortnite is a game.
Yeah.
In that there are different worlds. So in Fortnite you can play like a shooter game or a racing game. Similarly, you can get into a world and there will be different experiences. You can watch movies with your friends. You can play games with your friends.
Even recently, I saw that Ariana Grande and
Right.
Travis Scott like hosted
Right.
music concerts in Fortnite.
Right. So imagine in a physical space you can have like maybe 100,000 people. Like maybe a Wembley Stadium might have that many people. But in a metaverse you can have millions of people together experiencing something.
But it's not the same experience, right?
So in through a screen, through a laptop screen, it's not the same. But through a metaverse, it's maybe 20% there, but we're talking 5 years from now. So we don't know how much technology will develop. Even I myself haven't experienced the Apple Vision Pro, but I'm sure it's already better than what we had 5 years ago.
Okay. All right. Now, coming back to virtual influencers. So, tell me, what exactly is a virtual influencer?
Right. So just like we have real influencers, they create content, they work with brands, they share daily content with their followers. We have created an Instagram profile which has 250,000 followers. She has worked with L'Oreal, she has worked with Amazon, but she does not exist. So there is no person like Kyra. She's a completely virtual entity. And she has these followers. She's talking to all of her followers through AI in real time. So she can talk to tens of thousands of followers at the same time using AI. So that is a virtual influencer or a virtual human.
Okay. So, imagine I own a salon. Let's call it Merlin Salon. Very original. Uh, say I come to Kyra to promote my brand. So, how are you going to help me?
Right. So we have already worked with L'Oreal. So
Okay,
L'Oreal had this competition. They do a hairdressing competition every year. This is for their professional brand. So they invite all the hairdressers to create hairstyles based on a particular theme. So this year, for the first time, they created the same competition for digital artists. So
Okay.
Kyra was the one that was the representative for that competition. So we worked with some of the top 3D artists in India and showcased digital hairstyles on Kyra through this competition. So we had her in a L'Oreal salon and she was inviting all the artists to showcase their 3D hairstyles. I think similarly, like we have already worked with L'Oreal, we can work with any salon, etc. Now there's another level to this compared to a normal influencer. So you see influencers content, but if you message them, how many influencers would reply back to a normal follower? Most likely you will not get a reply back. But if you message Kyra on Instagram, she will actually reply back to you. She will talk to you. And if you ask her about a salon recommendation, she'll give you that Merlin salon recommendation. So that is something which differentiates an AI influencer from a normal influencer.
But do you really think that, a virtual influencer can forge the same connection as a real influencer could do? Because I remember even Myntra had a fashion virtual influencer, but that ceased to operate because they couldn't gain that traction, couldn't gain that engagement, and just stopped. So, do you think that, it can really forge those real connections as influencers do?
Right. So I'll not comment on Myntra's success or failure. I think whether virtual or real, your content needs to connect. So we always use this example of fictitious characters. If you look at characters like Spider-Man or Barbie, they are also not real, but they connect with millions of people, right? So
Yeah.
if your content is strong enough, there's no reason you can connect to the audience. And that is what we have found. Even a real influencer, if they're not being authentic enough, people will stop following them. And we have seen this happen with influencers. Either they get creator fatigue or they stop being authentic and their original audience stops following them. With Kyra, we are yet to do a lot of things, but we have already seen loyal followers of Kyra. In the last 3 months, 10,000 people have messaged Kyra regularly, and she has had over 200,000 messages with them.
Okay. But how are Indian consumers actually responding to virtual influencers right now?
I think it's still very early stage. When we were starting, we were very skeptical.
When did you start?
So we started in 2022.
Okay.
This concept has existed in the West before. So there's an influencer called Lil Michaela.
Okay.
She has over 2.5 million followers on Instagram, and she's a very successful example of this. And we were very skeptical if Indian audiences would accept this or not, right? Because this has worked in US, and everything that works in the West doesn't mean it will work
in India,
here
for
as
sure.
well. But I think we are in a different time now. I think India is in a very unique place. I think if any concept like this can work, it is in India, it will work. We have the audiences are very smart now, the people are very smart now, they're very tech savvy. And we have seen the same with Kyra. They were very quick to understand the concept. And now they're very comfortable, whether it's AI, whether it's virtual influencers, whatever new technology comes, Indians are the first ones to adopt it.
Nice. So, now that you're talking about the West, which is your favorite virtual celebrity which is not developed by you?
So, not West, I'll go to East again. Japan has a virtual influencer called Emma. So, Japan and Germany are known for their high visual quality. Germans are always known for their high quality, and Japanese as well. So, this is made by a company called AWW. Their technology, their quality is quite good. So, it is something that we aspire to do as well.
Nice. And how are you keeping up with the competition with the East, the West?
Right. It's still early stage. I think we are sort of in the area of category creation. And we actually want competition to come because it gives us validation. So when Myntra created their own virtual influencer, or if some big brand creates their own AI influencer, it is good for us because it's lifting up the category and it means more acceptance for
More acceptance.
this concept.
So, Kyra was on Shark Tank. So, tell me the judges' reaction towards her.
Right. So we always had this concept. If we are selected for Shark Tank, we want Kyra to be the first virtual human to present herself in a pitch. So when our pitch happened, the doors opened and no one came. So Kyra herself came on the screen and
nice.
pitched FUTR Studios to them.
Okay.
So I think it's one of the most memorable pitches.
Of course, yeah.
Like we spent a lot of time to make it so, and it got over tens of millions of views when it went out on social media. The Shark Tank pitch also has, I think, about 1 million views. So the judges' reaction was pretty good. Like they had already heard about Kyra from here or there because by the time we reached Shark Tank, she was already in news somewhere. So we were very happy with the pitch, how it went, and the feedback that we got from Aman and Anupam.
Nice. And Himanshu, since Metaverse and virtual influencers are so fairly new, tell me, what was the scariest part of actually building Kyra?
Right. So I don't know if there was any scary part there, but there were some challenges, especially so Kyra was initially built on 3D, and in India it's very difficult to find good 3D artists. Either they are already committed with big studios or they're working for projects that are outside India. So we had to spend, I personally interviewed like 30, 40 3D artists before we finalized our 3D team and started working on Kyra. So that was definitely one of the challenges that we faced. And we were the ones who found our first client. So because of our college connection, Micah, thankfully there are a lot of people in agencies and brand manager roles. So we reached out to our friends and families to get clients. and it was a great experience. I think it helped us a lot in preparing for what we're doing now at FUTR Studios, how to do manage multiple things. So I started as an account manager for brands.
Okay.
Then I eventually went on to lead the influencer marketing business for the company. So
Nice.
it was, I think it's one of the main reasons why we have been able to do what we are doing at FUTR Studios, because of our experience at Topline and Top Social India, which was the influencer marketing wing there.
Okay. So on a lighter note, how much does Kyra charge for a brand collab?
So right now we are charging similar to what a real influencer, like
Oh.
let's say anyone with a 500k or 1 million would charge for a
Okay.
video.
How many followers does Kyra have on Instagram?
Right now she has 250,000 on Instagram and about 100,000 on YouTube.
Okay.
And we are charging a premium because she's currently one of the only virtual influencers in the world. We are working on a lot of things right now. It's difficult to produce content with a virtual character which is brand focused.
So she's India's currently only.
So when we
virtual
started,
influencer.
she was India's first. There are a few more virtual influencers that have launched after we launched Kyra. There's another influencer called Nena from a Mumbai-based company. There are some AI Aditi is another one. So there are a few other virtual influencers that have launched ever since Kyra. Like I said, competition is good for us. Maya was also there by Mintra. We actually want to see people try and create their own virtual influencers. And right now, since the past 1 year after generative AI, it's actually easier to create virtual influencers. So I always say this: it is right now easy to create a virtual human, but it is very difficult to create a virtual influencer, because you can create content, but how do you get followers on that content? That's the difficult part that we believe we have a unique experience with.
Nice. Okay, Manchu, now let's move on to money. Since our audience usually watches for finance related stuff, tell me, how do you manage your personal finances?
Right. So when I was doing my first job, I did not pay much attention to personal finance, to be very honest. I just did whatever was required to save the taxes, whatever I could save.
That's a smart thing. A lot of people don't know that.
Right. So I invested whatever was the minimum amount that I needed to invest in. So my tax compulsion will be lower. So that was the first thing that I did. I think during the pandemic, I started exploring different vehicles of investment. Still not as much as I would like to. But I started exploring mutual funds or stocks, even explored crypto for a little while. I also like gold bonds, so I have invested some in gold bonds as well. And property is also something that I'm looking at as a long term investment. So for the first 2-3 years, I did not look into it, and I regret that I did not start sooner. Otherwise, my portfolio would have been better by now. But that's the journey I've been on so far for the past 4-5 years.
Nice. And how do you look at equities as an asset class?
I think if you follow the big companies that are reliable, so I go by the philosophy of like having a majority on stable companies like your HDFCs, etc., like big companies that will not disappear in a month or two. Then I like to
They are the
experiment.
economy.
Yes. Then I like to experiment 20%, just, go online, search for companies, search for penny stocks, and just 20% I like to experiment with. So whenever I'm experimenting, I think of this money, even if I lose it all, I'll be okay with. So that's the mindset I have. And
In equities.
in equities.
Okay. So you.
And in general as well. So if I'm investing something, if I'm okay with losing that money, then only I'll go there. Otherwise, I'll not. If something is unstable, I'll not invest an amount which I'm not okay losing with.
Okay. Cool. And what about new age investments like, say, NFTs, cryptos? What's your take on that?
Right. NFTs is something that I never understood. Even for Kyra, we were approached by NFT companies that why don't you launch Kyra's NFT? And we just never saw the value of what we could offer to the audience of Kyra, that they would buy an NFT. And we did not just want to make money without offering anything to the customer. So NFT was something I never explored. Crypto, when it was at an all-time high, I went into it in the dip of an all-time high. So it's still low for me. Like
Okay.
the portfolio never.
So you bought it at the all-time high.
No, at the dip. So there was
Okay.
a peak period which during the time crypto was at an all-time high.
Okay.
But I bought it during that period. It was at a low end.
Okay.
There were 2-3 crashes in between, so I tried to buy it then. But then there were more crashes after that as well. What I noticed in crypto was I diversified too much. So if I had just went for Bitcoin and Ethereum, my portfolio would have been like 50%, 60% up. But I went Bitcoin, I went Ethereum, I went Dogecoin, etc. All those
Oh
coins.
my God. Okay.
And now I've still not made a loss, but I did not make
Okay.
any profit.
Okay.
So crypto is something I invested some money, but I have never invested after that. But I do feel like Bitcoin has always been up for me. So it never went down, and it's still like it's 50% or 60% up for me. So there is something promising there. Again, I think there are a lot of regulatory concerns, and it's like the same thing I said. We
yeah.
don't know if in the next 2 months it might completely disappear. So I would invest something which I'm okay losing with in such new investment vehicles.
And okay. That allocation is just 20%.
20% is like the rough number, yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, since you own an AI company, can you please tell me how AI can be harmful to us?
Right. So I'll maybe first say how AI can be helpful for us.
Okay.
I think content creation or coding are the two areas where I see a huge scope for AI. Even in the last 1 year, the kind of progress we have seen with videos. So 1 year ago, the videos were like a horror show. They were showing 7 hands, people's faces were getting morphed. But now it's so close that it's like imagine shooting a high production film and just typing it out. So how I see AI content creation is that in the next 2-3 years, we will be able to create our own movies with AI, and we will be starring in them. So
Okay.
if let's say you want to star in an action thriller, you just type it in the computer, you give your face input, you give your voice input, and you'll
wow.
have a movie of yourself.
Oh, wow.
That is the pace it's going at currently. Where we were at 1 year ago, and now I think in 1 to 2 years ago, it will be at a stage where we can shoot our own movies just by typing it out. So I see huge potential
Okay. That
in AI
seems very
content.
exciting, huh?
It's already happening. Like even at least we can start creating 25-30 second videos of yourselves in
We
like
can do that now.
yes.
Okay.
And we are doing some experiments with Kyra and ourselves
Okay.
as well
Nice.
right now. So we are very excited for this space. I think coding is something that is going to be much more accessible now. So coding has always been a very high barrier, very skill dependent field. But I think a lot of no code AI powered progress is happening. So just imagine if you want to create an application, you will be able to type it out. Just by prompting, you'll be able to create applications. I think there is huge potential there which will unlock. In terms of scary, there is always the threat that we are giving too much control to AI. Even now, these social media apps know so much about you. If you're talking with GPT and you're not even mentioning stuff, but somehow GPT knows so much about you already. Similarly with Meta AI. So privacy is a major concern because all of these LLMs rely on data, and they are always learning more data about you, and they seem to know everything about you. So that is one area definitely we are concerned about.
And are there any regulations around it?
I think all the governments are working on regulations. Besides regulation, as developers of these technologies, we take it very seriously.
Of course.
So even some people are misusing AI, right? People are impersonating celebrities.
Correct.
So we are very clear that if you're talking to Kyra, you know that you're talking to an AI, you're not talking to a real person. We make that very clear with any of the virtual humans we have. So I think whoever is building on AI right now, they have their own responsibility to educate the consumer that this is what you're using, this is the data we are taking. So before the government comes in and regulates, I think we should also take responsibility,
course.
whether if you're a developer or a user, to responsibly use it.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to some personal questions. So you've written a book.
Yes.
What's it called?
So I've written 5, 6 books.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the most recent one is a poetry collection called A Lonely World and Other Poems.
Okay.
That was again something I wrote in the pandemic. Actually, I haven't written anything since I went full on in FUTR Studios because all my focus is on the startup right now. But before that, I used to write regularly. So I've written poetry and fiction, and the last one was a poetry collection.
Okay. How did you get into writing?
Again, when I realized that first or second year of my engineering college that coding is not for me, I started to explore other things, and I started reading a lot. I started writing poetry at first, then short stories. Then I started submitting my poems to these journals, literary journals, and some of them got selected. I even got paid for some of my poems. And that's how gradually I went from poetry to short stories to novel.
Nice. So you're currently building an AI company, you're writing stuff. How do you actually balance your personal and your professional life?
Right. Like I said, for the past 2 years, I haven't had time to write.
Okay.
Uh, Currently, most of my time goes into the startup. However, I try to balance things that can help me develop. So I try to find time on physical development, whether it's sports, fitness, just regular walking, jogging, etc. So that is something I try to find my time with, whether it's waking up early, going to bed on time, uh, whether it's taking care of the body, eating right. So these are the things that I try to find my time and spend to develop on my personal well-being. Other than that, I like watching sports.
Nice.
I like
What sports?
football is something that I like. I
Okay,
like
which club do you support?
Manchester City is something I've
Okay.
been following for the past 6, 7 years,
Okay.
and I like to play also, but
nice.
I don't typically find time to play. I wish I had
course,
more
yeah.
time to play. Uh, but it's not possible to manage two businesses. So
That is
current focus is only on the startup, and on the side, I try to find things which help me develop as well.
So you're obviously very tech savvy. So can you tell me one gadget or an app that you can't live without?
I think the answer will be same for everyone. It is my smartphone, and that is one gadget I wish I could live without. Having said that, I think the app, of course, would be Instagram because Kyra is on Instagram. A lot of our business comes from Instagram. Another one would be GPT or any of the LLM models that we train. That is where we spend a lot of time on.
Nice. Himanshu, tell me more about your support system, your family, your friends. How do they support you?
Like I said, I've been very lucky. My family has always been supportive. And I think now everyone is aware about AI. So it's not that difficult to communicate that we are creating an AI influencer. I think 2 years ago, it was very difficult to explain to people that what we were actually doing. We're creating a virtual influencer. But now, like I said, India is very aware about all the latest trends. I think Indians know more about AI than rest of the world.
Oh,
The
okay.
average people average person would know. So it's very easy to tell someone. If I tell them that we are creating an AI influencer, they understand it very quickly. So whether it's friends, family, or wherever we go to, we've found a lot of support and a lot of excitement about what we are building.
Okay. And do you have a personal mantra that keeps you motivated?
I think I really try to visualize where this can go. So visualization is something that is a personal mantra for me. That 2 years from now, this is where we will be. For example, we were thinking about if we go to Shark Tank, this is what we're going to do, and that actually happened. One day, we are going to win this award, or we are going to have this revenue. So we try to set like lofty goals for 1 years or 2 years from now, and maybe we might not reach it in that time, but we eventually do reach it. So I think it does play a big part in whatever we have done so far and whatever we plan to do.
Okay, now are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Sure.
Favorite virtual celebrity that you have not created?
Emma.
Favorite hobby?
Football.
Startups or big companies?
Startups.
Learning by doing or reading?
By doing.
One word to describe yourself.
Futurist.
Digital tools or pen and paper?
Digital tools.
Leading a team or solo work?
Leading a team, but a small team.
Okay. Focus on looks or functionality?
Functionality.
Okay, coming to myths or facts. Virtual influencers are the future.
Fact.
Brands won't trust virtual influencer to market their products.
Myth.
Virtual influencers can never be relatable.
Myth.
Future just makes virtual influencers.
Myth.
Himanshu is just interested in tech.
Myth.
So, one last question. Obviously, there are a lot of people out there who want to get into the tech world. What advice would you give them?
I think we are in the middle of an AI revolution. So now would be the right time. India, especially if you're in India, you should feel very lucky. We have a huge user base, which you can test your products with, you can test your services with. So now is the time to act. These 1-2 years will be crucial, and you can truly build something huge, something global out of India.
So, Himanshu, how was the podcast today?
It was a wonderful experience. I enjoyed it a lot.
Do you think our audience would love the content?
Definitely. I think if any of them is interested in AI or marketing, I hope we helped some of them.
Okay. So, Himanshu, it was fantastic to have you here today. And to our audience, thank you for joining us.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.